Okay, the CDC has made some changes to its vaccination policy. Now, don't get too excited. It's not a drastic change, but it is a change. So currently, the CDC's vaccination standards, there's 3 of them. And one of them is basically, is the lowest category, which means under 90% of passengers and 90% of crew members are unvaccinated, which means that's a bad category. You don't want to be in that category. In fact, currently 0 ships sailing out of the 83 cruise ships that have signed up in North America under the CDC's voluntary program. 0 ships are in that category. Then you have the next category, which is a highly vaccinated cruise, which is 95% of passengers and 95% of crew members have been vaccinated. And every single cruise ship sailing in North America is under that rating. All 83 cruise ships. And then they had the vaccination standard of excellence, everybody, which meant 95% of all passengers, 90% of all crew members were not only vaccinated, but up to date with their booster shots. And currently, 0 ships have reached that category. So thanks for having that category, but basically every single ship is in one of the 3 categories. It's just, I guess the more categories you have, the more important it can look. And nobody's reached any of the other categories. They haven't dropped below the highly vaccinated. They haven't gone above the highly vaccinated. But now they're making some changes to that system. And it no longer to be considered highly vaccinated. It's now going to be 90% of passengers, which doesn't sound like a lot. But remember, some of these ships can hold 6,000 passengers. So if you add another 5%, 5% of 6,000 is only 300 people. Not bad, but 10% of 6,000 is 600 people, which sounds a lot more. 1 in 10 people on the ship may be unvaccinated. Now, don't get me wrong. Personally, do you? That's been my opinion all along. I've made no mistake, no bones about it. I've been vaccinated. I have had my booster shot. If they offer me another booster shot, I'll get my other booster shot. And I've done a lot of this because I have a compromised immune system, but also I wanted to cruise, and I knew I would have to do this to cruise. So I wasn't going to wait 2 or 3 more years until there was 0 vaccinated rules anymore. I wanted to cruise. It's part of my job. So that's what I did. I got vaccinated. But hey, if you didn't want to get the vaccine, I'm not going to say anything about that. And am I concerned that there's more people on board that's not vaccinated? Well, we don't know that's going to happen yet. And let me explain that. Before I explain why I think that still might not be a thing, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you want to keep up to date with everything involved in cruising, from the new ships that are starting to the vaccination standards to what ports are going on to the brand new cruise ships being offered, and a whole new naming ceremony for the Holland America Rotterdam I'll be heading to in a few weeks. All things cruising, just hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost a thing. Be part of the topics and part of the conversation. And we love cruising on this channel. At least most of us do. If you hate cruising, why are you watching a cruising channel? I never understood that. All right. Why do I think that the cruise lines might not be really quick to go to that 90%? And it's part of my other stories that I've been covering lately, is that the media literally jumps all over the story whenever there's any rise in cases on cruise ships. We saw it with the Ruby Princess once in Seattle. We saw it recently on a Carnival ship. We see all kinds of stuff being, for 5, 6, 7 days after the event has already ended and the ships left those people and headed off on another sailing, they're still talking about it. And there's such a focal point in the media about this. Now can you imagine if the cruise lines lower that to 90%? And now instead of having, for instance, we had asymptomatic people on guests. We had 100 cases outbreak, but guess what? Nobody was sick. Everybody was, asymptomatic, very mild symptoms. No one ended up in hospital. Everything's fine. To now have a story where, well, this person ended up in hospital on a respirator. And then they find out, oh, by the way, that person wasn't vaccinated. That would be the story for months in the media. Whether it would have happened if they're vaccinated or not, it doesn't matter. The media would pick up on that one person. And they might not even they might not even mention unvaccinated. But it's, look, a person's in hospital now from a cruise ship. They haven't been able to say that very often from the cruise ships, from any of the outbreaks that we've been reporting on. I don't know of hardly any people who've ever ended up in hospital since the restart of cruising from a cruise ship. So, I don't know if they want that out there, if the cruise lines want to take that chance. Now, some cruise lines aim more towards a younger cruising demographic. For instance, Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean, very, Disney Cruise Line, very family oriented. They may look at this and say, yes, we can finally get more and more children. For instance, on Disney, 10% of children now under the age of 5. We can get more children on our ships and things like that. Well, yes, but how about a cruise line like Cunard or Princess or Holland America that goes for an older demographic, especially on smaller ships. For instance, here on the Island Princess, I was in the theater and the comedian goes, "Let's hear it for all the people in love under 40." There was not a single clap in the audience. And then they said, oh, sorry, under 40. Under 50. It's still silence. It was silence. Under 60. And then people started clapping. The average age on this cruise ship is over 50 years old. And they are definitely the higher area of people who have been vaccinated. So now you got to wonder, if they change that policy and then they see all these things in the media pop up about people going to hospital now, will that turn around people and turn off people of cruising once again? So it's a balancing act that the cruise lines have to do, and it's not an easy decision, especially if you really are family oriented and have more and more children. If you have an average of 50 on your cruise line, then that's not as big a decision for you. You don't necessarily have to go to 90%. You can stay at 95% because you're doing fine and you're still filling up your ships. We'll see what happens. It's a very interesting experiment going on, and I'm curious to see if the cruise lines decide to stay at 95 and which ones decide to go to the 90%. And will they even tell us? That's another thing that we don't know what's happening. Well, I hope you appreciate this video and a little explanation of what's going on with the CDC and the new vaccination standards. Until next time, everybody, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.